Well, that's me home now, I'm done. Settling down now with a brew and a biscuit. On my way home, I thought, I'll treat myself to a couple of them buttermints. I like a packet of them buttermints, they're nice. But when I saw the price of them, I thought, you can bugger off, I'm not paying that. And it got me thinking back to when I were a child. Do you know we had a shop that was specially for toffees? Oh aye, toffee shop it were. Oh, when I think back, all jars all lined up in a row at top. And the colours, they were every colour at rainbow. And you'd walk in that shop and there were a smell. Smells take you back, don't they, down memory lane. But this smell, I can't tell you what it were, except it were a smell of excitement and joy. All colours right in front of your eyes, spearmint pips, them little spearmint pink things they were in jars. Mint imperials and Uncle Joe's mint balls. Blackcurrant and licorice, do you remember them? And chocolate limes they were. Then they were nut brittle and Parma violets, never keen on them I were. Cherry lips, they were little red uns that were shaped like lips. And then they had sherbet spaceships, made of paper they were, and when you put in your mouth, all your face screwed up. Ah, them were days. My favourites were blackcurrant and licorice. I liked them. But my gran always went for nut brittle. She always went for coconut mushrooms as well. Them were another. They were a bit like coconut macaroons, but shaped like mushrooms. We could spend hours in that shop choosing. And when she used to say to me, come on, love, let's go and have a walk round the shop. And if you're good, I'll get you a couple of ounces of sweets tonight while we're watching telly. Ooh, that image would stop in my head all day and I'd be thinking, what shall I have? What shall I choose? I always went for the same thing though, blackcurrant and licorice, because I love that. But it weren't just jars of toffees. There were chocolate as well. There were bar 6. Do you remember them? They come in a orange wrapper. Bar 6. Marathons. Arabars. They were long and flat, and when you tried to chew them, they stretched for miles until they snapped. Arabars, they were good. Oh, aye, licorice root. It were like a bit of root from a tree, and you'd chew it and chew it and chew it until it had no flavour, and then it got annoying and stuck in your teeth. A lot of old people used to bite licorice root, and I could never understand how they chewed it with the false teeth, but they liked it. And then there were kale and Spanish. Oh, you could get that in a bag of kale, multicoloured it were, with a bit of Spanish in the middle to dip. Or there were them sherbet dabs, like a tube of gunpowder it were. In fact, it looked like a stick of dynamite. You had a long tube, and then you had a stick of licorice sticking out at top for fuse. Come to think of it, it might have been made of gunpowder, because when you got that in your gob, it nearly blew your head off. God knows what were in them things, but it kept us happy. Oh, there were some good things in there. You could wander round all day, just imagining, trying every one. And sometimes shopkeepers said, you want one? Do you want to try? And they'd give me one out at jar. Ooh, them were days. Pear drops were another. And lemon bonbons. And then there were another. What were them? They were a bonbon, covered in icing sugar or some kind of sugar they were. They had almonds in them. Oh, there were all sorts, weren't there then? You were spoilt for choice, not like now. Everything's a pack of 3. You have to have family packs. And it's not like a treat now, is it? You can't just wander up street and say, oh, I just fancy one of them. You'd have to have 3 packets and novelty would wear off before you got first one in your mouth. Yeah, them were the days. And my great-grandma, she used to come round sometimes and she'd always bring me a lucky bag. I think they were 6pence or 2pence, I can't remember now. But they had everything in them, they did. Lucky bags. I always remember bangle, always made out of them round toffees with holes in the middle. And they always tasted like Parma violets. Now I get confused about that because I didn't used like Parma violets, but I'd eat that. Maybe it were novelty, because it were a bangle. But there were them and a couple of cherry lips. And then there were a couple of them love hearts. You didn't get a couple of packets, just a couple of love hearts with a message on. Hug me now. I love you. Wait for me. They were tacky, weren't they? But what you'd do, you'd take them out and you'd give them to a lad that you liked. And then he'd look at it and stamp on it right in front of your face. Lads were always having a do at girls, pulling out the ribbons, standing on the colouring books, breaking the pencils. They'd do all sorts to get you back up. Somebody told me once they do that when they like you. Well, it'd be a bugger if they didn't like you, wouldn't it? They were always going up to something, lads. Round near us they were anyway. It were a dog's life if you were a girl. But going back to the sweet shop, my gran, she were a bugger for nut brittle. And she had false teeth, you know, so she'd always get a couple of ounces of nut brittle and we'd sit in front of the telly, and when she'd done, all nuts were stuck in her false teeth. So she'd take her false teeth out and chew nuts out of them. Ooh, when I think back. I don't know if she managed to chew nuts out with her gums, but she did. And sometimes, you know, she'd say on a Friday, not all the time, but every couple of weeks, she'd say, come on, love, I'll put my coat and scarf on and let's have a walk up to the chip shop and get her a couple of portions of chips. Oh, they were treats as well. I can taste them now. We had a chip shop that were up a brew. Well, come to think of it, everything were up a brew in them days. But then again, my legs were little, so it might have seemed up a brew. But anyway, we'd get ready and we'd start walking up to the fish and chip shop. And you could smell it, long before you got there. You could smell it 100 mile away. And another thing you could smell was newspaper they used to wrap it in. I can't describe what I mean by that, but you could smell chips and you could smell newspaper. And you were hungry when you got there. They were good, them chips. So we'd go up brew and we'd be talking about, shall we eat it on the way back or shall we save them while we get home? And then we'd get to Chippy. And there'd be a queue. There were always a queue a mile long because everybody loved that chip shop. And you'd always have somebody in front of you who brought their own basin. And they'd be there saying, just give us a mixture, love. I'll have a mixture. And a mixture, when they used to bring their own basin and they'd have chips, peas and pea soup on. And it were all juice off peas, but they used to have a mixture. And you could bring your own basin then and they'd fill it up for you as well with lots of salt and vinegar. Oh, aye. Can you imagine doing that now? They can't even put a few chips in a polystyrene tray for you. Never mind taking your own basin. But then, yeah, you could take your own basin. My gran had done it herself a couple of times to get a mixture. But anyway, when it were our turn, we'd get our chips, 2 lots of chips, and she'd pile a load of them on a couple of pieces of newspaper. They used to save all newspapers then for wrapping chips. And they put lots of salt and vinegar on and wrap them up. And then we'd start to take them home. Sometimes we'd even start eating them on the way back. But wherever we did, we always had a handful of ink when we got home. And sometimes newspaper had even started to rip where chips had made it sweat, vinegar had seeped through. Oh, but they were good, them chips. I can taste them now thinking about it. And you know, I never knew anybody that died of ink poisoning. Now it's all sanitised and clinicalised and health and safety-ised. But then they didn't bother. No, just dollop your chips on a piece of newspaper and you were good to go. And it didn't matter if you had ink all over your fingers, you'd just lick it off and no harm come to you. Oh, well, them were days, weren't they? They're not coming back. Now you've got your white paper and your polystyrene trays. You only get a handful of chips now. And even chips aren't same, are they? Not like they were then. They were soggy and nice, and they had a taste to them that you could never equal no matter how much you tried to cook them. You'd never get them to taste like that. Maybe that were down to newspaper as well. Ah well, I'll be back again with another tale from North soon. Ta-ra!